Let's just back up on that.
Thanks, Paul. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the San Marcos City Candidate Forum, presented to you by the San Marcos Chamber of Commerce. I am Chamber CEO Rick Rungaitis. Thanks so much for coming to this very special event. San Marcos Chamber is proud to host this event. Chamber is an advocate of business dedicated for the promotion and development of a positive business environment in San Marcos. The Chamber serves as the best resource for its members and the business community to promote a positive business climate, economy, and quality of life in San Marcos. I'd like to thank all the candidates for participating in the forum, and you will meet them all very shortly. I want to give a big thank you to the Father's House for hosting tonight's event. At this time, I'd like to introduce Pastor John Burgess for a welcome and invocation.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting this space. It's really the heart of the Father's House to be a place for our community right outside these doors. We have, over 906,000 people waiting for leadership, trusting our businesses, looking to us for guidance in any number of areas. And in this day and age, if we can actually provide a place for safe and civil discussion, that's an amazing thing. So I love that our chamber is prioritizing that. I love that each of you are here being a part of this important process. Jesus said, of course, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. We're neighbors. When it comes down to it, first and foremost, that's who we are. So if you don't mind, if we bow our heads, let's pray. God, we just thank you for this moment right here where we can honor you. Thank you for each of the candidates here, giving of their time, ready to share their heart. I thank you, God, for each of our neighbors here that are prioritizing what you want to do in this city. We thank you, God, for what you're about to do tonight, and we bless this proceeding in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Thanks, Pastor John. At this time, I'd like to introduce all the candidates, and I ask that you hold your applause so we're done introducing all of them. Our mayoral candidates, Mayor Rebecca Jones and City Council Member Randy Walton. From District 1, City Council Member Maria Nunez. From District 2, Jay Petrick, Mike Sanella, Lionel Salisbury. Ambreen Ahmed was scheduled to participate, but is absent due to a family emergency. Now you can applaud. I'd like to introduce Dennis Walsh, who is our official timekeeper. Dennis is a board member for the chamber and also CEO of Oasis Breads. At this time, I'd like to introduce Carla Reuter. Carla is also on our board of directors for the chamber, and she is the retail advertising sales manager for the San Diego Union Tribune. So just briefly, the format for today's candidate forum. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening remarks, followed by a series of 4 questions. Our timekeeper will flash the yellow sign when there are 30 seconds left, and the orange sign when there are 5 seconds to wrap up. The candidates received these questions on Monday, so they have had time to prepare, and they'll have 2 minutes to respond tonight. The chamber sent out a survey several weeks ago asking for questions from the community. The 4 questions being asked tonight were decided upon by the Chamber Board of Directors from the questions that were submitted. After all candidates have answered the questions, they will be given 2 minutes for closing remarks. Now, just a couple more things. Just a reminder to silence your phones. And also, please refrain from any cheering or clapping during the event. We appreciate you helping us with all of this. So thank you again for attending this candidate forum. And with that, I will turn it over to Carla.
Thank you, Rick, and welcome to everyone this evening. As Rick mentioned, we're going to begin with opening remarks. And so with that said, we're going to begin with our mayoral candidates, and we are going to begin the opening remarks with Mayor Rebecca Jones.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. So I have been serving as mayor for the last, this is my 4th year, and prior to that, I was a council member for 12 years, and I've been so excited to share everything that's going on in our city. Our public safety has been doing great. We have the 2nd lowest crime rate in our city's history, and between 2017 and 2021, it has gone down 20%, which is very significant. And I'm very excited to share that the Deputy Sheriff's Association is supporting me to keep San Marcos safe, as well as the fire department. And our fire department has decreased their response times. So we're always doing well in that. And also it has become a Class 1 classification, which is great for our city. We also have had very strong reserves during my time on the council. Right around 40% or better than that every single year, which has been great because it really helps us out in times like COVID. Then also our quality of life has done significantly really engaged with our community, making sure that we are building in a sensible manner. We approved our last general plan back in 2012. And it's just been great to see all of the things that have happened in our city. We have a downtown spreading up right there in North City. Then we also have affordable housing that's been built. In my time on the council, we built over 600 units. And then also parks, in 10 parks in my last 12 years on the city council as a council member, and we're working on 2 more to add to that as well. So I'm really proud of all the great things that we've done during my time on the council. We've come a long way, and I'm really excited to be here today to share with you all of the great things that our city is doing.
Thank you. And next, we will hear from City Council Member Randy Walton.
Thank you, and thank you to the Chamber and the Father's House for hosting this forum. My name is Randy Walton. I'm a City Council member, and I'm running to be the next mayor. I've dedicated nearly 20 years of my life to the improvement of our community, starting in 2004, when myself and some neighbors got into a big public fight with the city over a Walmart. After that, I was selected along with my friend Jay Petrick to help draft a law to protect our ridge lines from overdevelopment. And in 2008, I was elected to the San Marcos Unified School District Governing Board with the intention of improving our schools. I was a leader in the Prop K effort, you might recall, in 2010, that allowed us to rebuild San Marcos High School and San Marcos Elementary School and so many other schools. And I was also the founder of the San Marcos Promise, a nonprofit that helps students plan for life after high school and that continues to thrive on all of our campuses today in our future centers. In my time on the council, I've emphasized the care and protection of our community. During COVID, I created the Discover Our Recovery Business Promise program. I joined my colleagues in a very generous granting program that doled out almost $6 million to local businesses and nonprofits. And protecting the environment has been very important to me. I've taken a leading role on single-use plastics reduction, on moving toward community power, and last year partnered with the Surfrider Foundation on a cleanup where we removed almost a ton of trash from the San Marcos streets. I've been married to my wife, Kristen, for 29 years. We raised both of our sons in San Marcos schools. They're both thriving, I'm very happy to say. And all of this is evidence that I love this community and I want to lead it as what we enter are sure to be challenging times. Our traffic is worse than it's ever been. The cost of housing is out of reach for most working and young people. And we need to continue to act to protect our environment and reduce our carbon footprint. I have a record of getting things done, and I will continue to do that as your mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to move over to District 1 and hear from City Council Member Maria Nunez.
Buenas tardes. Good afternoon, everybody. Maria Nunez. I represent District 1, and I was elected to represent this district in 2018. 2018 was the first election that we held by district in the city's history. And one of the reasons I made the decision to run for the seat in 2018 is because the other individuals who were poised to run were not representative of District 1. And I made the decision to step up and run because I knew we had a shot at taking the seat, given that it was a by-district election. The city of San Marcos District 1 is comprised of our most vulnerable residents, including migrant, immigrant, Latino, Latina, Latinx, low-income, and Spanish-speaking members in the city of San Marcos, and really San Diego County as a whole. I have lived in San Marcos District 1 most of my life. I've been in the city for 41 years. I grew up in District 1. I was educated by the San Marcos Unified School District in District 1. I know and I understand the unique needs and challenges, but also the aspirations of the residents of District 1. District 1, unfortunately, has the least amount of individuals who vote and who participate really in our governing structure in the decision-making of the city. I know that in November of 2018, I was elected to this seat because we were able to engage these residents that typically do not engage, do not have a voice, and it's my commitment to continue to voice and advocate for these residents.
All right,
Thank
you. Thank you, Councilwoman Nunez. Now let's move on to District 2. We're going to hear first opening remarks from Jay Petrick.
Thank you, San Marcos Chamber of Commerce and the Father's House for hosting this event. My name is Jay Petrick, and I want to be your next City Council member representing District 2. My wife and I moved here almost 30 years ago with our 3 young children for the quality of life, the excellent schools, the abundant amenities, the parks, trails, and open space, and the safe neighborhoods that make San Marcos a gem. Over the years, I volunteered in many local organizations that have been appointed to several citizen committees. I was twice elected to the San Marcos School Board during a time of tremendous growth, including building Mission Hills High School, both San Alejo schools, and rebuilding San Marcos High School. In 2018, I was unanimously appointed to serve a 2-year term on the San Marcos City Council, and I currently serve as the Council's appointee on the General Plan Advisory Committee. So why do I want to be the next City Council member? I love this community, and I want to ensure that San Marcos remains a thriving place of opportunity and promise. I'll be guided by 3 principles: safe, clean, efficient. I believe that the public's interests are best served when local leaders make sound decisions that support safety services that protect the needs of San Marcos, clean and attractive public and private amenities that advance the community's vision, and efficient stewardship of those amenities and infrastructure in a sustainable manner. Decisions are going to be made in the next few years about the future of San Marcos and how our city will look and feel. Population growth and change, that's inevitable, but development should enhance our quality of life. While I served on the City Council, I supported our law enforcement and emergency services to keep San Marcos safe. I approved vital infrastructure improvements to ease traffic congestion, and I expanded our park and trail system, all with balanced budgets and strong reserves. I will ensure that we maintain our safe neighborhoods, embrace technology and sustainability, expand our amenities, support our businesses, and smartly plan for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, let's hear opening remarks from Mike Sanella.
Well, thank you, and good evening, and thank you to the Chamber and the Father's House for hosting us tonight. My name is Mike Sanella, and I'm a candidate for San Marcos City Council District 2. I've lived in San Marcos since 1996. I moved here to attend CSUSM, where I graduated in 2000. My wife, Amy, who is in the audience, is also a graduate from Cal State San Marcos. And after we graduated from school, we started our family, purchased a home, and set roots here, and just fell in love with the community. And I've been involved with the community at different levels between the Planning Commission, volunteering on the Boys and Girls Club, Auction Committee, and other fundraising committees, as well as in 2014, I was elected to serve you on the Vallecillos Water District Board of Directors. And I've been doing that for the last 8 years. We've had a tremendous amount of accomplishment in recent years with regards to fiscal reform, bringing on desalination to safeguard our water supply. We implemented the largest solar program in San Marcos, and we currently recycle 33% of our wastewater here in our community, and every drop of water that we can recycle is a drop of water that we can drink, and that's a good thing when you live in the desert. My top priorities for City Council is public safety and keeping San Marcos safe. That's why I'm endorsed by our Deputy Sheriff's Association. I'm dedicated to putting San Marcos neighborhoods first, to listen and be a voice for San Marcos families, and I am committed to investing in our infrastructure to help residents get around town easier. As I have for the past 8 years at Vallecillos Water, I am running for City Council to serve you. Thank you again for attending tonight, and I look forward to sharing more about my thoughts as the night goes on.
Thank you. And we'll be wrapping up our opening remarks with Lionel Salisbury.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. I'm so happy that I get to sit these panel of leaders. Who am I? I am a retired Marine veteran. I served 22 years in the United States Marine Corps. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I am the assistant commandant at the Army Navy Academy, which is an all-boys military college preparatory boarding school. I've been there for 6 years. I am very proud to be an individual who serves. I've been a servant leader since I had my first job at the age of 12, a paper boy in Youngstown, Ohio. I want to continue to serve. I have traveled all over the world. I lived in 14 different countries. This is the first time that I feel like I am at home. I've been here in San Marcos since 2019. Me and my wife and my family bought a home here. And since then, I've been picking up trash on every walk that I've taken because I care about keeping San Marcos beautiful. I want to continue my service. I did not know how I could do that, and I was inspired by a visit from our mayor, and her walking into my driveway essentially changed the lives of me and my family. It changed the way that I think, and it changed the way that I am here in this city. I want to be able to serve. Whether I receive a vote or not, I will still be here in the city serving all of you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, candidates. So with that, we're going to move on to our first question of the evening. And so the question is, San Marcos has always been a business-friendly community. Seeing inflationary headwinds begin to impact the cost of doing business in our community, what will you do to continue promoting a healthy business environment as we navigate through this challenging time? And we're going to begin with our mayoral candidate, City Council member Randy Walton.
Well, I've always been an advocate, a vocal advocate for supporting businesses, especially small business, which makes up most of San Marcos, because a thriving business sector is the backbone of every local economy. We not only rely on those tax dollars, but in so many ways our businesses we have shape our reputation and shape our culture. As a city, we always need to be mindful about how our policies might impact our businesses, and that includes housing policy and transportation policy, which we're going to talk about in a sec. And we should support those entities that support businesses like the Chamber of Commerce, which I've been a member of now for something like 15 years. We should also be humble as a city and be receptive to honest feedback from the business community, and understand that a diverse business community will have diverse and differing needs. As a city, we do have control over how a business is treated by its local government, whether it involves how local regulations are applied and enforced, and how available and responsive we are to the needs of our business community. And while we might have very little power to address inflationary headwinds, we do have the power to be friendly and supportive to our local business community and do what we can to help them to succeed. As I mentioned earlier, nearly 20 years ago, myself and some steadfast neighbors challenged and beat the placement of a Walmart store on Rancho Santa Fe Road in Melrose in that little valley. It was a store approved by a city council that you could argue wasn't so business friendly, but I still believe the placement of that store would have been damaging to the community and to our business community. But we stood up and we fought and we beat it, and as your mayor, I will bring that same fight in support of our business community, both in good times and in challenging times.
Thank you, Council Member Walton, City Council Member. Next, we're going to hear from Mayor Rebecca Jones.
Thank you so much. So the entire time that I've been on the City Council, I have worked very hard for our businesses. You can hear from businesses like Ivan Derazin, where he was having an issue with the city where they decided that at the last minute that they were going to require him to jump through some hoops that would change his entire business plan. And so unfortunately, he needed to call a city council member. He gave me a ring. I'd never met him before. And Ivan said to me, "Council member, I have an issue, and I've heard you're the one to talk to. So what can you do to help me?" So I found out what the issue was, and I went to the office, and I handled it for him. And he was able to open on time and follow his business plan. So my tireless efforts have led us through the Great Recession in this city. It was a very tough time. The unprecedented times of the Great Recession were something that we had never even planned for. But we were ready, available to support all of our businesses. And then 7 years ago, we made a game-changing decision, and that was to hire an economic development director. So when Tess joined us, she went out and intentionally found businesses that wanted to come to the city, and then we started figuring out how we could actually assist them and help them through the process of getting their CUPs and help them become a thriving business in our community. Instead of a city that actually stands in the way of businesses, we are now a different city. So 7 years ago that happened. I also go and speak all the time to different entities of the Lincoln Club and other speaking engagements talking about San Marcos, touting how wonderful it is to do business here because you've got government that actually works for you and wants to help you thrive.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. Next, we'll hear from City Council Member Maria Nunez.
Thank you. I'm a proud resident of the city of San Marcos. I'm a proud business owner. I'm in private practice as an attorney. I have an office here in the city of San Marcos, one in the city of San Diego, and I'm proud to support businesses. As I mentioned in my introductory remarks, I represent District 1, and District 1 has very specific challenges and needs. And I'm going to respond to this question. We indirectly had this question come up as a city council almost a year ago at the end of the year in December. And the way this question was presented to us was in the form of a street vendor ordinance that we were asked to pass. And I'm happy to say that we were able to organize some of the small businesses in District 1 and some of the small businesses, and I'm talking about those women that sell tamales, that sell elotes, that sell mangoes on the street, right? Because this is the way they're able to make a living. And these are the individuals that unfortunately get left out of the economic development conversations. So I firmly support our small businesses. I support economic development. But what I always want to advocate for, what I want to encourage is that we use the lens of equity. And we use a lens of equity in the decisions that we make as a city and as a region, because these are businesses that are the life of our city, right? And these are the ones that are going to help us sustain. And so my position is to make sure that they are not get left behind. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to our District 2 candidates next. And first, we're going to hear from Mike Sanella.
Thank you, and I want to acknowledge current and past city leaders for always being supportive of our local business community. Like the question started off with, that we've always been a pro-business community. As a water board representative, I consider myself a pro-local business, governed in that way, and I've been somebody who's taken those phone calls from churches and breweries and local restaurant owners, bakeries, residents, developers, and everybody in between when they have concerns with what's going on either in the city or with the water district in particular. And there's two things that I think will help our local business community the most. First, we need to keep San Marcos a place where people want to live, shop, do business, spend their entertainment and recreation dollars here. This means we have to keep San Marcos safe, we have to keep San Marcos clean, and we want San Marcos to be a place where it's easier to get around. I think if we don't do those basic city services, those basic city responsibilities, the consumers out there, the people who want to do business in our community will take their business elsewhere to other cities. That's the first thing. The second thing that we need to do is, again, from this feedback that I've received over the years of serving on the water board, is that this may not come to a surprise to many of you, but government doesn't always work efficiently, and it doesn't always, it's not always helpful. It can sometimes work better. And so I think what we've done at Vallecillos Water District is we did a complete comprehensive review of all of our ordinances, our policies, to ensure that things that we might have done a decade ago or 2 decades ago may have worked back then, but they're not working today. And they may not take into technological advances and other ways to make things more efficient. So we streamlined processes and we've empowered our employees, and I'm getting the hook, so.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Salisbury.
Thank you. Going through the COVID pandemic and being faced with major declines in some of our small businesses, our city council was able to offer $3 million in loans to our small businesses, which were later turned into grants. That type of decision-making was thoughtful and very considerate. I believe it is important that for our businesses today that are concerned with any changes that may be coming as far as financial goals, that they have that trust and confidence in our city, that our city can be able to help them out in any financial distress that they may be facing. I was able to talk to a couple of business owners, one being a young lady that works at Fondley Homes. That was one of the first shops that I went to when I first moved here. And she talked about how the city helped her out, how she was able to get into another location when her location was going away. We need that trust and confidence. That's what brings businesses here to our community. People don't want to work in a community, or they don't want to invest in a community with leadership that they can't trust, or leadership that they feel will not be able to support them. This is the type of leadership that I would like to bring to the city council. I feel that forward thinking and focusing on our future businesses will help us to establish great community and great companies to allow this city to grow. Thank you.
Thank you. And to finish off with a response to question number 1 is Mr. Petrick.
Thank you. Promoting a healthy business environment includes sensitivity to the fact that time is money, and city policies can positively impact business operations. Economic development was under my umbrella when I served as Escondido's assistant city manager, and I worked closely with my staff and collaborated with local businesses to implement programs for a business-friendly environment. These included expedited plan processing and fee deferrals for business applications, assigning staff as liaisons to shepherd business plans through the process, and constantly pursuing state and federal business grants to administer at the local level. I would promote those programs as your city council member. Business needs are unique, and as a city council member, I'll focus on listening and advocating for flexible and nimble approaches to assist business retention, expansion, and attraction. When I served on the city council, I valued our visits to local businesses and conversations with their owners. Most of these visits involve small businesses, which are a huge economic driver in the community. Over 90% of our job growth in our community comes from local business expansion. But owners don't necessarily have the expertise or the resources to navigate the complexities of city procedures and regulations. Questions I would always ask owners during these visits were, how is it working with the city? And what can we do to help your business prosper more? And I would always follow up with staff to assist where appropriate. As a council member, I'll also promote continuing the city's strong relationship with organizations aimed at maximizing our economic prosperity and competitiveness. This includes not only the Chamber of Commerce, but also the Economic North Economic Development Council, Innovate 78, San Diego Regional EDC, and the Governor's Office of Economic Development. And finally, we can't forget our local colleges in Cal State San Marcos. They fill our talent pipelines that feed our local economic base. Over 70% of students graduating from these institutions stay in the local area and in our local job market. And as a council member, I'll advocate collaboration to ensure the city does its part to meet the needs of the community and businesses.
All right, and that wraps up question number 1. So we're going to move on. Your next question, candidates. Sacramento insists on continued building of new homes throughout the state. Some San Marcos residents would like to see less or no new housing built. What is your position on continued housing growth in San Marcos? And we're going to hear from our mayoral candidate, Mayor Rebecca Jones, first.
Thank you. This is one of my favorite subjects to discuss, actually. So I am constantly talking to people, whoever will listen to me, that local control is what will save our community and keep it the way that we want it. And it is almost on a daily basis that I hear of new legislation where the state is trying to take away our local control. If it were up to the state, we would have high density all over the place, but that would change San Marcos. I'm okay, and I have actually approved in many cases, well, not in many cases, but in the case of North City. North City makes sense. It's becoming our urban core, and that is great for me. But you can also go out in Twin Oaks Valley, and you can own a house with a yard and a horse and all kinds of livestock. That is what makes San Marcos great. We have very diverse housing opportunities. I am a big proponent of local control, which is why I brought forward a resolution last year that would bring a rewriting of the California Constitution in changing that all land use would be local. Instead of the state passing all of their legislation on, like I said, practically a daily basis, it would bring all land use back to the cities. And that's how we can keep our communities the way that we like them, the way that we appreciate. So I brought that resolution forward, and it was for the Brand Huang Mendoza tripartisan initiative. So it was actually supported by all people of all different political parties. That ended up not getting on the agenda or on the ballot this year, but it is probably coming back, I believe, next in 2 years. So anyway, that is very important for us to watch. It will bring back local control. It will rewrite the resolution or the Constitution of California. And on that, just as a quick note, it was a 3-2 vote at your city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, City Council Member Randy Walton.
In June, I wrote an article for the Voice of San Diego entitled, "When It Comes to Housing in San Marcos, the Kids Are Not All Right." And I could have just as easily replaced kids with business, because housing, especially workforce housing, has become a true crisis in our region under local control. The data shows that over the last 7 years, we have a net loss of people under the age of 40 in North County. The NCTD can't find bus drivers, the sheriffs can't find deputies, and businesses up and down the 78 can't find workers. And I'm a person who believes the primary reason for that is that young, employable people are leaving because they can't find housing. We need to do 3 things as a city. We need to first increase density in zoning, like North City. Nearly 80% of all the residential land in San Marcos is zoned for 1 house per lot. And for 30 years, single-family detached homes have been prioritized. Those homes have become far too expensive. And while they've served us well, today we need something different, namely infill development with smart growth principles. Second, we need to require smaller living units. In the 1950s, the average size of an American home was 1,000 square feet. Today, the average condo is much bigger than that, and that size is reflected in the price. Tonight, there will be thousands of empty bedrooms in San Marcos, while young people and working people cannot afford any rooms at all. Third, limit institutional investor purchases of these properties if possible, including flippers. It's no secret that institutional investors are gobbling up our property. The UT did an article 4 days ago on it. And the corporate flippers are denying people entry into the market. We can't be a city that does not have housing options for our first responders, our teachers, the people in the trades, the service industry. Going forward, we need to view all proposed housing through an affordability lens. And I would like to see this Chamber of Commerce be our partner in that effort because it's so important for our businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. We're moving on now to our District 1 candidate, City Council Member Maria Nunez.
Our residents in the city, including District 1, have been long-term residents. The residents that I talk to on a daily basis, that I work alongside, they have been here for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And I hear the same thing as the rest of the residents. Everybody wants to stay here. The kids that come to school, to Palomar College, to the university, they all want to stay here, right? They want to grow their careers here. And so my response to the residents that say, stop building, it's unrealistic for us to do that. And so I am in agreement with Councilmember Walton. I support his vision. I support options to increase not only the availability, but the affordability. And what I would offer is that we have done a great job in the city. We have some affordable complexes that are thriving, right? They're great living spaces for our family. So the challenge for us, I think, is how do we increase those in the city, right? How do we make those more accessible for the residents that are here to remain here? And for those that are coming into a city, how do we keep those residents here? That is our challenge. This is the crisis of our lifetime. So how are we going to do that? So I welcome not only collaboration with the state, but I think we have to look at this as a region, because this is not an issue that impacts only our residents, but it's true for the other cities along the 78 corridor. Thank you.
Thank you. And now on to our District 2 candidates. Let's hear first from Mr. Salisbury.
Thank you. With the Senate Bill 9 is a multi-year effort to develop solutions to address California housing crisis. That's a reality. We're going to have to build. However, in certain areas in San Marcos, we don't have the space to build. Even though houses are coming, we have to figure out the proper way of putting those houses, the proper place to put those houses, and what is it going to look like for the community. Helping to ensure that the city continues to grow. However, we want to make sure that the city does not lose its beauty. Growth that helps us bring this community a lot closer. So like North City. Yes, we have housing in North City, but we also have the structures that we can walk around, and we can be more of a community. We can be able to come together and enjoy some of the things that the city has to offer. Now, new homes and residents is going to help boost the economy, and it's going to allow other businesses to come in, to support the economy, to support the people that are moving in. I myself am very fortunate to be able to watch my house be built here. I was very fortunate to be able to watch the Creek Project. I'm there every day, seeing what it looks like. I like the growth in our community. I like the urban development in North City, but I also like what we have in our suburban areas. I think growth is important, and we need to allow it to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, let's hear from Mr. Petrick.
In my campaign, I've knocked on over 2,000 doors to talk with folks on their front porches. The amount and rate of development ranks high on their list of concerns. But what also concerns folks is the threat of their own children who might not be able to live in San Marcos, the town they grew up and love. One mom said to me, "Jay, it broke my heart saying goodbye to my grandkids who moved away simply because my daughter and son-in-law couldn't afford to live here anymore." The average rent in town is $2,300 a month. The average single home goes for $850,000, and our cost of living is 140% of the national average. Our younger, talented workforce is leaving the region, or simply choosing not to live here because of the high cost of living. That's bad for business, and every local business owner should be concerned who's seeking to expand. But we also have a housing availability shortage. The fact that there isn't enough housing to meet our needs is a direct correlation to its cost. We are critically short on a specific type of housing needed to ensure a local, healthy economy and a vibrant community. Bottom line, we do need more housing, but not million-dollar homes. We need attractive, well-planned, strategically located workforce ownership housing that's attainable for teachers, nurses, police officers, accountants, bus drivers, and other middle-income younger workers. But it must be done right. We need to enhance our quality of life. Infrastructure and amenities must be in place to accommodate the new growth. And we need to be forward-thinking about the transportation needs on how to support that new housing. As I stated earlier, decisions are going to be made in the next few years about San Marcos and the direction that we're going to go. Population growth and change, that is inevitable. But we need visionary, proactive leadership to ensure that our much-needed housing is planned and implemented in the right manner. As my former boss used to say to me, Jay, it's like landing the space shuttle. We have one chance to do it right.
Thank you. All right, and last, let's hear from Mr. Sanella.
Thank you. There's two parts to this question. The first part centers around the state housing mandates placed on us by Sacramento. And for me, that's the most frustrating part. Somewhere along the lines over the last few years, all of the cities in California lost their local control. And I agree with our current mayor, Rebecca Jones, about this, because I would rather prefer that we, as the local representatives, and us as a community through our general planning and such, that we make the decisions of how we build, how much we build, when we build, and where we build. And that's changed, and we've lost that local control, and we have to get it back. As far as my stance on housing, I'm not a whole lot different than everybody else that's already spoken. My experience with government has taught me that there's really an absolute yes or no to any of the complex issues that we face. With housing, we need a balanced approach. I support the smart growth strategies, and I think that approach is helpful. But there is a housing shortage, and there's a housing affordability crisis that's been mentioned up here a few times. And that housing affordability crisis is caused in large part, because of the housing shortage. My daughter is a senior at San Marcos High School currently. She's going to be going away to school after she's out of high school. But when she's done with college, I want her to be able to come back. And similar to the stories that Jay just mentioned with some of the people he's spoken to, I want her to live in San Marcos. I want her to be able to afford to either rent or buy a home and be close to us. I'm not sure she's going to be able to do that, but we'll see. It certainly won't happen if we cut off developing new homes completely. For me, though, because of these state mandates and this growth that's inevitable, for me, my focus is really about ensuring that the developments that are being built are high quality, and that they contribute to our community with new parks and trails, and that they fund road and water infrastructure and schools. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our third question for the evening. Sandag has promoted a program to charge residents a tax fee for every per mile traveled to drive on roads, which they say will be used to maintain our current and expanded roadway system. Concerned on how this will impact the cost of doing business in San Marcos, do you think the Sandag approach is a good idea? And if not, what do you propose we do to maintain our roadway system and manage increased traffic coming from planned growth? And we're going to begin our responses with our mayoral candidate, City Council Member Walton.
I agree with Mayor Todd Gloria that there should be no road usage fee until people have a reasonable alternative than the automobile. But let's talk about traffic. It's the number one thing I hear when I'm campaigning that people are concerned about. And for good reason. It is terrible. And let's be honest, during Rebecca's 16 years on this council, there has been a limitless approval of projects and a resistance to meaningful infrastructure to support the growth. For example, Rebecca voted against the 2021 regional plan, a plan that provides tremendous benefit to San Marcos while proposing no alternatives. I mean, imagine real improvements to the 78, Barham Drive, more Sprinter access, new transit, major technological upgrades to intersections. That is a plan that Rebecca voted against. And since taking her role on Sandag as our representative in the county, on regional matters, she sides more with Santee and El Cajon than she does our neighbors, Encinitas and Escondido. And who can forget 4 years ago, about this time, right before an election, when Rebecca and Mike here, sitting next to me, with great fanfare, released this SMARTS transportation plan, a fancy flyer and a press release, that they said was a plan for transportation that was going to provide modern, clean air buses that would provide home-to-school transportation and be a resource for quick wildfire evacuation. 4 years ago, Rebecca said, "This is my top priority because our residents deserve relief now." Well, guess what? There was no plan 4 years ago. It was a campaign gimmick. If we want to have real transportation solutions, we have to build coalitions with regional leaders. And I'm the only person in this race who was endorsed by 3 members of Congress, the most powerful person in the state Senate, county supervisors, and numerous mayors and council members. I will build those coalitions and finally get something done in San Marcos regarding transportation.
All right, thank you. Mayor Jones?
Thank you, I appreciate it. So the VMT is not to provide for any funds for roads or for highways lanes. It's not to maintain them or any of that. So when people are out there saying that, that is completely untrue. The VMT is to pay for transit only and active transportation programs. So in my time as North County Transit Chair and my time on the board, I can tell you there are a lot of things that are happening already that are going toward microtransit. So currently, and this actually has been going on for a couple of years now, there was a pandemic. So the microtransit has not yet rolled out, but that is actually in the works right now as we speak. If you all have any kids in the school district, there was a needs assessment that was sent out in November of last year from the district, but it came through North County Transit District, and that was at my prompting. Currently, we have our Deputy Mayor, Sharon Jenkins, who is on the board of North County Transit District, and she is well aware of the microtransit that will be coming to San Marcos, that will be working with Palomar College, CSU San Marcos, but also to get our middle and high schoolers to school on a basis that is on demand. Currently, the RFP is going to be approved in February of next year, and there is currently a 50 person shortage at North County Transit, so they're unable to run their regular routes. So the reason that the microtransit has not yet happened is because of that. But I did bring forward a resolution opposing any fees here in the city of San Marcos and to stand up with our residents and businesses, and that actually passed on a 3-2 vote back in November of last year.
All right, thank you. Let's hear from our District 1 candidate now, City Council Member Nunez.
Thank you. Once again, I have to point out that the families living in District 1, the residents of District 1 are the ones that are greatly impacted because there's many individuals who are not able to afford vehicles. These are the individuals that rely heavily on public transportation. And it's definitely an issue for these families to be able to access necessities, be able to access their places of employment, and being able to access food in certain instances. And many of the students don't have access to cars. So this is a real issue. This is an issue that impacts these residents directly. I do support any regional solutions that will increase the availability of public transportation. And I also support what Councilmember Walton mentioned about those coalitions. I think it's inevitable that we are going to transition and that adding vehicles to roads may not be the best solution. And so I do welcome the plans that SANDAG has for our region, and I hope to see an increase in public transportation accessibility in whatever that form may be. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we're going to move to our District 2 candidates, and we're going to hear first from Mr. Petrick.
Traffic is the primary concern voters have raised during my campaigning. Revenues from current gas tax collections are not adequate to fund maintenance, a growing percentage of electric vehicles pay no gas tax, and the roadway infrastructure lags behind development. A vehicle miles tax, or VMT tax, attempts to level the playing field. Instead of paying taxes at the fuel pump, every vehicle, whether it's gas, electric, or hybrid, pays based on the miles they drive. A VMT tax, instead of paying gas tax, that seems fair to me. That said, I don't support Sandag's approach because of the challenges associated with implementation, administration, compliance reporting, and privacy issues. An incremental way to address roadway maintenance is to simply take more vehicles off the road. Less wear and tear in our streets means less maintenance obligations. Let's collaborate with San Marcos School District and maybe NCTD to identify convenient bus stop hubs throughout the city and communities where students can safely walk to and be dropped off instead of parents driving their kids all the way to school and clogging surrounding streets. The city's broadband infrastructure strategy should be prioritized to maximize every resident's remote work opportunity so that they can take vehicles off the street by reducing commutes. And we should invest in a safe, convenient, and easy-to-use local shuttle system, connecting residents to destination spots around San Marcos and incentivize people to get out of their vehicles. In managing increased traffic from planned growth, we currently collect traffic fees from new development that funds their proportional impact to the city's transportation system. But what frequently happens is the timing for construction of those improvements lags until fees from other projects are collected. We should look for ways to install the infrastructure earlier and pursue reimbursement programs from future development. Autonomous vehicles and driverless fleets, they're great things to envision for the future, but we need leadership now to address the hard questions of managing our current roadway challenges. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Sanella?
Yes, thank you. First, I think it's important to reiterate that the proposed vehicle mileage taxes and road user fees are not intended to maintain or expand our roadways, as the mayor mentioned. In my opinion, Sandag has always been, hasn't always been clear with regards to their intentions with that. They've kind of been wishy-washy going back and forth, but in recent weeks and months, they've been very clear about that. I attended a Sandag conference where they were speaking at, and the speaker actually said, they talked about the 78. They said there will not be any more lanes put on the 78. And so for that reason, I cannot support the vehicle mileage tax. There's a lot of reasons why I don't support it, which I'm going to talk about here in a second, but I strongly oppose to being taxed per mile to drive on existing roads. Some of the other reasons, as Councilwoman Member Nunez mentioned, is that it's a regressive tax. It hurts the disadvantaged communities the most. And it's simply not a good investment for San Marcos or North County for that matter. I'm not afraid to invest and spend money on big things, big ideas that are good investments for our community. We spent $1 billion, the region spent $1 billion on the desalination plant in Carlsbad, and Vallecillos spent millions to directly connect to it so that we now have 3.1 million gallons of drinkable water coming to our local region here in San Marcos every single day. But if they're not going to build more roads and they're only going to focus on mass transit like the Sprinter, our community is not designed for that. In District 2 with Santa Leo Hills and Discovery Hills and Rancho Dorado, they're not going to, there's no mass transit. they're going to have to drive to the Sprinter and then get on that, and then it's going to take them to some place that they don't want to go when they don't want to go there. And so that's just not going to work for us. We should not be taxed per mile, and I'm strongly opposed to that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Salisbury.
Thank you, Mel. I have to agree. I strongly oppose as well. I think that Sandag has not been as transparent as they could have been, and I don't think it's fair to pay for a tax when it's not going to where it's supposed to go. And for our district, in District 2, mass transit it's not conducive to what it is that we do in that community. We will still be on the road. Like Mike stated, we'll still have to drive to wherever we're going to be jumping on a train or a Sprinter or what have you. I have a 23-year-old son that lived with me for a while until he moved out. And he didn't like to drive. He would walk to the Sprinter every day, and he would take 2 hours to get from my house to Carlsbad where he worked. He enjoyed doing that. That's great for him. A lot of our youth enjoy doing ride sharing. However, look at the demographic in our community. That's not the demographic. We need to be in our vehicles, and Sandag can be a little bit more transparent with what it is that they want to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we are now at our last question of the evening, and the question is, our lovely city has a lot going for it. What specifically do you bring to the table to help it be even better? And we're going to begin with Mayor Rebecca Jones.
Thank you so much. I have institutional knowledge that not everyone has. I've been involved with the city. I was on the Creek District Task Force, and I was also working with many of our local businesses early on. I used to own my own business here in the city. I have always made sure that I have kept our successes at mind of all the things that we've done in the past, all of our councils in the past that have laid a wonderful foundation for us. If you look at San Marcos, we are a very well-run city. We're actually known for that, and it's because we have kept politics out of all of this. We have never been partisan. We have never done any of that. While other cities are squabbling and in the news about it, we have always put our citizens first. I will remain doing that. I will continue to do that. I have a culture of unity. This is something that is extremely apparent when you look at our city and you look at how people work together, and our businesses are a big part of that. Also, I bring to the table that I was the chair of North County Transit District and served on that board for 6 years. So I do know very well about the microtransit that I've been working on for quite a few years. And once those shortages are brought back, that will be launched here in the city. I also think that it's important that you show up to things. No one shows up more than I do in local government right now, today, because it's important to me. I always think it's important whenever the chamber calls me and says, hey, can you help out with this? Can you promote this? Can you promote that? I always show up. I think that's very important. I'm very visible in the community. I'm easy to reach. Lots of people call me and text me, send me messages. I think that's really important. But to have that leadership is important.
All right, thank you. City Council Member Walton?
What I bring to the table is an articulated vision for the future of San Marcos and nearly 20 years of getting things done. In the coming years, your city leaders will be deciding not just how big a city San Marcos will become, but what kind of city will become. Will our future be one of excessive growth, overburdened infrastructure and gridlock, or one that preserves, protects, and improves the assets that made us want to move here in the first place? The San Marcos that I want to lead is a dynamic place where people of all backgrounds and all income levels have a place, where our business community is supported and nurtured, and where future growth is done smart and carefully with an eye on infrastructure and with a fundamental concern about the impact that growth will have on our current residents, our businesses, and our schools. I want to be a leader that prioritizes the protection and preservation of our open spaces and parklands, always looking for opportunities to expand them, and a city that strives to be sustainable in its policies, doing our part to reduce carbon emissions. Remember, we're still a young city, and we get to pick what kind of a city we're going to be. Are we going to be just a suburb of somewhere else, or a destination city, a culturally rich place for our residents and our businesses? You know, will we be more like a Boulder, Colorado, or an Asheville, North Carolina? Admired college towns with thriving, culturally rich amenities, or just a bedroom community on the outskirts of a large city like so many California cities? Our potential in San Marcos is enormous, but will we achieve it? I bring to the table an actual vision and a record of accomplishment to get us there.
Thank you. Let's move on to District 1 now and hear from City Council Member Nunez.
In 2018, when I first ran for this seat, my primary goal was to help the District 1 families become civically engaged and participate in our decision-making as a city. And that continues to be my goal today. Unfortunately, we have seen some progress, but not a lot. And then obviously having COVID and having a shutdown didn't help the progress. But I am happy that I have a voice on this city council, and I'm happy to bring the voice of so many individuals, right? Thousands of individuals that have lived in our city for so many years that really have not participated, have not been heard. And that is the status today, right? It's not unusual for me to ask the city for a document in Spanish. What information is being given to our residents in Spanish, right? We have many monolingual Spanish speakers, and unfortunately today, that is still the case. And so what I have been able to do is literally make connections. And that is what I commit to being able to continue to do, literally connect these individuals that have been left out to be included in the process, in the decision making, and that is what we're doing. And I hope to see a lot more progress within the next 4 years.
Thank you. Let's move on to our District 2 candidates, and we're going to begin with Mr. Sanella.
Thank you again. I agree, and I think we all would agree that our city is lovely, like the question starts off with. I'm going to bring a combination of two things to the table that I believe will help make San Marcos even better. First, I'm an experienced elected official of 8 years serving on a governing board with a track record of getting things done, being fiscally responsible, and maintaining the highest standards when it comes to the utility services throughout our community. In recent years, as I mentioned earlier, we've invested in and implemented some very big projects like desalination and solar and water reuse. I believe my experience and track record will help make San Marcos even better. Secondly, I'll bring the same drive for continuous improvement that I have at Vallecito's to City Hall. One of my questions I got timed out on earlier, I was talking about the inefficiencies of government. And and this isn't specific to San Marcos, this is government-wide from the DMV to the White House and everything in between. There's opportunities for improvement. We can listen better, we can communicate better, and we can solve these challenges in better ways. And I think that we see the continuous improvement in the private sector a lot. We don't see it so much in the government side of things. And I think that's, with my background with Lean Six Sigma and my private sector background, and my experience at Vallecito's actually accomplishing this and changing the culture there, we can achieve that here at the city of San Marcos as well. So to overcome the challenges that our city faces both today and those in the future, as a council member, I will remain focused on continuous improvement in all that the city does, and that will help make San Marcos even better.
Very good. Mr. Salisbury, we'll hear from you next.
Thank you, Mel. 3 major things that I bring, and it comes with being new. It comes with being new to politics and new to San Marcos, is the ability to, first off, listen. Listen to what the community has to say. Learn. Learn everything that the community needs and lead. Now, I'm not new to leadership. Like I said, I've been leading since 1998 as a United States Marine in every climate and place, dealing with some things. But I'm here now. I'm here in San Marcos, so I want to continue that servant leadership. I've lived here for 3 years. With that, I bring a fresh, bright perspective as to what San Marcos has to offer and what San Marcos needs for generations to come. I'm a parent of a Double Peak student, and I understand some of the traffic concerns. I'm in it every day. I understand how important education is, and we have some of the finest schools here in San Marcos. I am a homeowner in the city, and I understand the importance of keeping our city safe and well maintained. I offer a consistent work ethic, decisive leadership, and an unmatched moral compass. As I said before, I'm a servant leader. Thank you.
Thank you. And wrapping this question up, we'll hear from Mr. Petrick.
Thank you. Voters in District 2 have a choice who they want to represent them. And I encourage everyone to evaluate each candidate running for City Council to make an informed decision. I believe the unique skill set that I would bring to the table will make San Marcos even better. I have a degree in urban planning and began my career as a city planner in Escondido. I rose through the ranks to become the department director and then was promoted to assistant city manager. I have 36 years of local municipal experience, many in leadership positions. My involvement in city administration, my education in urban planning, and my experience as an appointed city council member provides me with a unique depth of knowledge that will provide and benefit San Marcos in many ways. This includes areas like the general plan, city budgets, economic development, public works, emergency and community services, all of which will provide me a solid value in offering opinions, making recommendations, and decisions. I'm retired. I believe I'm the only candidate who can say that up here. So I'll be serving as your city council as my full-time job. I will make myself available to residents as well as city staff and the Chamber of Commerce to represent San Marcos wherever and whenever is needed to devote the time required to do the work to make representing you the best possible way. As a local resident who has lived in San Marcos for almost 3 decades, I've served alongside others in leadership roles that have contributed to the success and the vitality of our community. This includes the San Marcos School Board, elementary and high school parent clubs, grad night committee chairman, Cub Scout volunteer, youth baseball coach, Prop K committee member, classroom volunteer, and numerous city committees. My involvement in this community, our connection with our history, relationships with residents that I have, and institutional knowledge will benefit San Marcos because I believe it imparts a deeper sense of understanding, responsibility, and commitment to every decision that I will make as a city council member to ensure the very best for our community. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. And to wrap up this evening, what we would like to do is hear some closing remarks from each of our candidates. And we're going to begin closing remarks with our mayoral candidates, and we'll begin with City Council Member Randy Walton.
Few cities in the world boast a better quality of life than we enjoy in San Marcos. Our beautiful weather, our open spaces, our excellent schools, our burgeoning business community. It's hard to imagine a place with more life-enriching assets than this place we call home, which is why my wife and I moved here 23 years ago. Yet we find ourselves at a crossroads. As one of the fastest growing cities in the county, we see every day the pressure that growth is putting on our roads and our schools. And we find our small city grappling with bigger city type problems and a quality of life that feels in jeopardy for many. On top of that, we see technology rapidly changing how we live. Remote work has become commonplace. Online purchasing has radically influenced our shopping habits, and electric vehicles, including e-bikes, are now widely in use. We need to embrace that technology and incorporate these changes into the planning for the future. Most of all, our leaders need to acknowledge that we do have real problems. The impacts of traffic congestion, housing affordability, a rapidly growing university, our dwindling open spaces, and do their best to address them. As your mayor, I can promise you I will be a careful steward of your tax dollars and driven by a single goal, to maintain a high quality of life for those who live and do business here. This means a mayor that supports a well-funded fire and law enforcement, a mayor who will build coalitions required to build out our much-needed transportation infrastructure, a mayor who will work closely with our educational institutions, a mayor who will support our business community, and most importantly, a mayor who will always, always put people over politics. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Jones?
Thank you so much. So when I moved to San Marcos in 1987, it was a very different time in our city. It was a city that had not reached its full potential. Here we are, just last week named one of the 25 best cities for families to live. That is intentional. That takes a lot of hard work that has gone on for nearly 6 decades in our city. So many great leaders have been giving their time and their treasure to our city, including myself. And it's not by accident. And I actually am a full-time council member because I too am retired. So when you look at San Marcos, it's very clear what we're going to be. We're going to be a city that we are right now. We're going to continue on the way that we are. I think if it's not broken, don't fix it. However, there are definitely things that we can do to put the whipped cream on top of the sundae, I guess I would call it. We need to finish our largest capital improvement project, which is going to significantly change how people get around San Marcos. That's $116 million. Another $30 million is an extension of Discovery Road. On my one-year anniversary of being elected as mayor, we had been working on this for 10 years prior. That's when we broke ground on the Creek District project. It will be completed next year. It is a huge game changer for our city. Public safety needs to also be followed, and make sure that we're continuing to incorporate all of the wonderful things that we're doing in public safety, making sure our sheriffs and our fire departments are fully funded, as they have been for all of the time that I've been on the council. We also need to remain fiscally responsible and making sure that we're saving money for these rainy days. So as we look at the future, we need to make sure we respect the past and have that institutional knowledge.
Thank you. City Council Member Nunez from District 1.
Thank you. It has been the honor of my life serving San Marcos residents as your District 1 representative. San Marcos has been my home for over 41 years. It's where I grew up, was educated, and from experiencing firsthand inequities, acquired my passion and work ethic for serving others. I have spent most of my life leading as an attorney, community advocate, and the last 4 years as your city council representative. I embrace the opportunity to continue serving my community to ensure everyone enjoys a thriving quality of life in our city. As your representative, I have advocated for housing affordability and accessibility, community safety, infrastructure, and economic opportunity. I have supported initiatives and policies promoting civic participation, equity, and access to economic development, job quality, and environmentally sustainable industries. Most importantly, I advocate tirelessly for an equitable recovery from the pandemic to mitigate the devastating and disproportionate impact COVID-19 had on our families and our businesses. There's still more to do. I hope to have the honor of serving a second term as your District 1 representative to continue improving the lives of our residents, especially the most vulnerable community members and businesses who remain disproportionately underserved and under-resourced. Thank you.
Thank you. And now moving on to our District 2 candidates, let's hear closing remarks from Mr. Salisbury.
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you all again for being here, for allowing me to be able to put my name on the ballot. Who would think a young man from Youngstown, Ohio would be sitting on the stage with these fine leaders? It is such an honor to even say, I want to be here and serve. That is what I want to do. I can't just live in this city. I can't just walk around and enjoy the amenities that are here and not give. Like I said before, I'm a servant leader, and I have to continue to serve. And that is what I will do every day. I heard two major things. One very recently, and I'm going to steal it. A gentleman that I am growing to admire tremendously said, whether I receive the vote or I do not, it doesn't matter. I am here to serve our community. I am San Marcos. Another statement came from me to my mother. My mother has a 9th grade education. She recently became a minister. I sent her a text message and I told her, because she was concerned about being qualified. I told her, I said, Mom, God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the call. And when I walked through those doors, I thought of that exact same statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's hear next from Mr. Petrick.
Thank you again, San Marcos Chamber of Commerce and the Father's House for hosting this event, and thank you all for coming to this forum. My wife and I have been blessed to call San Marcos our home for almost 30 years and raise our family here. I love this community and I feel a passion to give back. I started out as a classroom volunteer in our children's kindergarten class, and after many years of twists and turns, I now find myself knocking on doors in District 2 as a city council candidate. I couldn't have done any of this without the love and support of my wife, Heather, and I wouldn't have embarked on this journey without the support of my family. They are my most treasured endorsements, and I'm very grateful for them. In my campaign, I'm attempting to knock on as many voters' doors as possible and conduct what I call front porch conversations to hear the thoughts and concerns from residents here in town. Many exchanges are brief, some are quite lengthy, many are funny, very passionate, also informative. I'm approaching my 3,000th door, and I've gained valuable insight on what's voters' minds. Throughout my years as a volunteer, elected representative, and now city council candidate, I've heard the opportunity to listen, to learn, to appreciate the diverse perspectives of our community. I'm a team player. I'm collaborative, I'm results-oriented, and I'm willing to make the tough decisions, and I have a track record of getting things done. Those are the qualities that I believe it takes to be a good leader, and those are the attributes I will bring if I'm elected to city council. I'm serious when I encourage everyone to evaluate every candidate running for office in order to make the best decision possible. My website is www.petrick4sanmarcos.com. This is the future of our community we're talking about. Make your vote count. I appreciate your consideration, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And finishing off our closing remarks, Mr. Sanella.
Thank you again, and thank you all for attending and spending a little bit of time with us this evening, and thank you to the Chamber of Commerce and the Father's House for hosting us tonight. It's been a wonderful 8 years serving on the Vallecillos Water District, but prior to that, it's been since 1996 as a resident of this beautiful community, being on the Planning Commission and the different volunteer opportunities that I've been able to participate in and give back in a little way. It's now time for me to take that experience and that commitment to public service to City Hall. And one of the, in addition to everything that we talked about tonight, one of the key things that's really important to me from a leadership standpoint is being accessible. And I've kind of built a little bit of a reputation at Vallecillos as being the person to call when there is challenges, if a resident has a concern with a broken water pipe or something not correct with their street because it's buckling or whatever it may be. Same thing with businesses and our community. And I want to be that listening representative for all of you at City Hall, and I want to be your voice at City Hall. I also want to take a second, this is kind of off script a little bit, but I want to thank Lionel for getting involved. Our community needs new voices. Rebecca, Randy, and I, we've been doing this for a long time. And we all have good intentions, right? But we need new voices. And I didn't know Lionel prior to this race. This is the second time that I've met Lionel. But thank you for getting in. I think I made a new friend. And I really appreciate you getting involved, and I hope that you stay involved as we go through this. And again, thank you all for coming out. My website is www.mikesanella.com, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much, candidates, for being here tonight. We really appreciate it, and thank you all for being here as well. Let's give them a big round of applause.
Thanks, everyone, for attending tonight's candidate forum brought to you by the San Marcos Chamber. Thanks to Dennis and Carla for helping this event. We appreciate it. Big thank you to Pastor John Burgess and the Father's House. This has proved to be a wonderful venue for this event, and thanks for everything you do. Shameless plug for the Chamber this Sunday, Harvest Fest, right here in Villa Veracruz from 9 to 5. So it's a great family-friendly event. I know we'll see all these guys here there on Sunday, and hopefully we'll see you there as well. So one more time, let's hear it for all our candidates tonight. Thanks, everyone.